Hi, this is Wilna, and thank you for buying this workshop. I'm back after a couple years with another brand new workshop where we're going to be doing art journaling. And I made these covers for art journal books, and I just thought it would make the best workshop. So I'm starting off with my one of my best tips, and probably the most important tip of this whole thing is just to cover the book parts with plastic that you are not going to get any paint on. You don't want the paint to spill, you don't want the resin, when we get to that part, to drip down on the pages. So I have a piece of vapor barrier. You, they use it in homes that I bought a roll of at Rona just to cover actually tables when I teach art. And I cut a piece 11 by 11, and as you can see here, I'm gift wrapping the book in plastic, just the parts that I don't want any paint or resin or anything on it. And I'm just using clear tape. And there you can see, voila, that is like the first and most important thing that you have to do before we start our workshop. Now, I got the books from Michael's. They're Artist Loft little sketchbooks. They're about 5.5 inches wide and 8 inches tall. And then I'm going to start every book in a different way. So I'm making two. I call them twins. So I'm making two in each video. And for this pair, I started off by just adding gesso on the cover, as you can see there, and I'm just rolling it out with my brayer in a very haphazard way. It doesn't need to be perfect. If you've taken a class with me before, you know that I love happy accidents. I love just things happening. And now I'm just going to spray a little bit of light blue paint on the cover, and this is going to be our starting point for this pair of albums. The spray paint is an acrylic spray paint called PBO spray, and it's a matte light blue. I buy it at Michael's. What I love about this is that I can actually use it inside my house, and it does not have any odor at all. So that is kind of why I love this brand of spray paint. It's a little bit of a challenge to keep the nozzles clean, but I'll give you my best tips there for that later on. What you see on your screen now is just a little bit of deep turquoise, and I'm just rolling it on with these little rollers that I bought back from my scrapbooking years. I think I bought them from Studio Calico, and in the links on the Amazon links, there is some rollers that you can buy that they call them paint rollers. So they have a texture or a pattern on them. And you can do this. You can also create this look by dabbing acrylic paint through a stencil. If you have a chevron stencil, and just place it here and there and just dab some paint through it. But again, this is just mark making. I'm not super attached to the outcome. It will probably be covered at some point, and it's just part of the process, which is a huge part of when we do art journaling. Um, just the process is almost like the whole goal of art journaling. This is white paint mixed with a little bit of red, and I'm just painting a little pink in there. Okay, you can see that my blue is not quite dry, which is not a problem for me again. Let's see how the paint react with one another. What is the color that comes out of that blending? I'm honestly so in love with the process of art journaling that, and I've been doing it for so long that I think it's the most freeing part of art that you can make. The other reason why I love it so much is because you do not have to be artistic to do art journaling. It's so technique based that you can literally follow along and have the exact same outcome as I have in the class. As you can see here, I'm not lying when I say that the nozzles of the PBO spray clogs up. So what I suggest you get is a little can of WD-40 and just spray your nozzle with that. And then with a long point needle, you can just gouge out the paint. That usually clears it pretty well. I also am not opposed to swapping out nozzles between the cans. I find that's the easiest way sometimes. I'll have one working nozzle and just interchange it with whatever spray paint I'm using. The stencil that you just saw is one that I cut from my um, with my silhouette cameo. There you can see my long needle point, and that is what I use to clean the nozzles, and I also use it to separate my stickers when I do a print and cut. With these stickers, I actually did the cut was too deep, and I figured out in the meantime the perfect little kiss cut so that the back of the paper is still intact, but you can peel off the sticker. And I use sticker paper. I link that all in the product page. My favorite sticker paper, this is the white one. It's waterproof, which I love. And then you can just print and cut your stickers or your images, and then I'm just positioning it and seeing where to place my stickers. That's probably the hardest part sometimes, just to figure that out on an art journal page. Back to the stencil, I just want to mention that I actually make those right in my Silhouette, or you can do it in your Cricut software. Use a sans serif font like Bebas and just something that is very easy to read, and just type in your words, and then just do a double cut on some thick paper, like a good quality cardstock, watercolor paper. I cut all my stencils that I use with watercolor paper. Um, right now, I'm doing a different chevron roller, and I actually love this one a little more. And I'm just going to add a couple of lines. I love, love, love these little rollers, and I wish I could find them again. If you find them somewhere, let me know, and I will just add it on the product page. One thing that is so interesting, if you follow along on my art journal pages that I've made, even if you've taken a class with me, is I add my media here and there. I do not cover the whole page with stencils or with light molding paste. When I do that, I won't paint the half the page with this color paint. I add them in little bits here and there. It's almost like clustering your mixed media on your page. So sometimes I want a little bit to show, like the stencil. Sometimes I want to cover it, right? So it's about the journey and just how intuitively you feel the placement of your media. Now, I want to say sometimes it works, but sometimes it just doesn't feel right, right? And then you just have to keep on working until you have that feeling in your tummy that, oh, this feels right. And that is why I think art journaling is sometimes hard to teach, because it's such an intuitive process. Um, and that is also when I teach art journaling, I often tell the students, especially in person, is just follow along with me. And then once you've done that a couple times, venture out on your own. So if you're new to this, I want to tell you, just follow along with me and try and copy what I'm doing as closely as possible. And then after a couple of pages like this, because you can make this on a page, right? You don't have to make it on an album cover. After a couple of pages, you will feel your own voice emerging, and then you will venture off in your own journey. That is my little philosophy for you here. And again, this is a stencil. I actually have this one in the downloads. You can download the stencil and cut it out. I use just cardstock paper, scrapbooking paper, and did a double cut. And you can see this stencil have been used over and over and over again. And I just love it. So I'm placing, do you see on the deal, on the two books, right? I'm doing stenciling on the exact same spot there, but I'm using pluses on the one side and X's on the other side. And but this one with the plus just felt like I just needed to do a light spray on the top part. And now I'm going to um, just play with it, like see what I can do. When I spray paint flourishes, oh wait, this is the lines, yellow, and then I'm going to add some yellow on the other side as well, but I'm going to flip it and do it on the top part. I love it when I can remember what I did because I do the voiceover a lot later than I actually made the pages. So a little yellow. I love a touch of bright yellow on my pages because it just makes it pop a little. Okay, I'm just going to pause here. You can see that some flourishes there. Right. One thing I want to mention, you can see there's some flourishes that I spray painted on there, and I did not record that part. Sometimes that just happens. But I will show you in future videos how to layer your spray paint when you do your flourishes. And that is also a fun technique to use. So this, what you're seeing now, are some black and white stickers that I made. The page is included in your downloads. And I printed these just on this beautiful, wonderful matte clear sticker. And let me tell you, I think this is probably one of my favorite parts of my art journaling right now is just adding these clear stickers over, layering it over some stenciling, and it just makes um, it it just, I love the detail it gives. So I can highly recommend you getting those clear stickers, and just this one is just stuck there. That needlepoint tool is really one of the best little tools that I can recommend using for this workshop. And I love layering those little clear stickers. Just one of my absolute favorite things. Right now, I think my arginine is done, and we're going to start layering the epoxy. So I have 1 tablespoon measurement there in a little cup, and I'm just gonna pour one measurement of each of the A and B into that cup, and then you want to stir it for 4 minutes. Now this epoxy resin is just one of my favorites. It's food safe, so it's not toxic. And what I love about it is you can buy it in these smaller containers, smaller bottles, and like 2 tablespoons, so one of each of the A and B, is enough for 2 albums. So that is super important to know. And it takes 24 hours to dry. And then when it dries, it feels like glass. It looks like glass, it feels like glass, and it is the absolute most beautiful finish that you can imagine. So it's a little bit of a messy process. So that is why I think my experience with working with epoxy resin will come in handy to teach you a little bit of tips and tricks so that you don't go through the learning process that I went through. But I also want to say that covering your books help. That is one reason why covering your books in plastic is absolutely crucial. I made 12 albums, and on one of them it dripped on the over the edge, and I'm so glad that the plastic was covering the pages. Otherwise, you can imagine when the resin hardens, you won't be able to open your books, right, if the pages are stuck together with resin. So that is just something that I really, really recommend. And in fact, if you work with resin, I don't think it's really an option. Now you're going to want to stir your resin for about 4 minutes, and don't skip on this step, right? Set a timer and then slowly stir it for 4 minutes. Put your feet up, watch something on TV or something, and stir your resin. And it will be, because if it's not well mixed, then what will happen is it will be tacky. It will dry, but there will be tacky spots on your book, and you do not want that. You just want it to be clear and hard and beautiful. So I, oh, and I just want to say this. I really feel, after even photographing the albums, that it doesn't really shows how beautiful these books are once the resin is hard and the books are done. So I'm trying my best to show it, but you have to see it in person. So I hope that you do this part. I bought mine off Amazon. It's a Canadian made resin, and you can see there I'm cleaning my little measuring spoon just with a wet wipe. And while the resin is wet or not set, it can clean out really well. The resin also takes about 30 minutes before it starts to harden. So you can have time to rework things. So, and you don't have to hurry. You don't have to hurry. There I'm showing you 4 minutes of stirring. There my 4 minutes of stirring is over. And now I'm just going to pour. So you pour a little bit in the middle and you scrape it off, and then you're going to pour a little bit again. And now you're going to use a palette knife, plastic one, and you're just going to spread it. Now, the best tip here is don't even go close to the edges. Leave about a quarter of an inch of the edge so that um, you don't go over the edge. And you really want to keep it just in the middle. The other part that you have to avoid is the spine. Now, sometimes if your book is not flat 100%, the resin will drip into the spine area. And then what you can do for the next 30 minutes, 30, 40, even hour, just monitor your resin situation. And then you can take your knife and just clean the spine out if resin migrated into that area, and also around the edges. So if resin is dripping around the edges, you can wipe it off within the next hour. You still have time. You can see there I'm just going to mind my spine. When the resin is in the spine area, you're going to have trouble opening your book. So I really, really suggest that you keep it away from there. You can see I wiped the bottom part just with a wet wipe. That works great. And now you can even add a little bit more if you feel it's too thin. But I guess it's a Goldilocks situation. You don't want too little, but you don't want too much. And it's okay if you add a little bit at a time here and there. And yeah, then you just have to be patient and let it dry. Make sure that your book is as flat and like as possible. So I felt that I propped mine up on the sides with two ice cream sticks, and that was just because of the angle. So yeah, you can just look after it, make sure your edges are clean, and just keep monitoring it for about an hour, and then the resin will be too thick. It won't flow anymore. So that is just a couple of tricks. So I am showing you this in the next 3 videos as well, and I'll probably be repeating myself, which is fine, but I think it's important that you hear it maybe a couple times, so that it really sinks in that there is a little tip and trick to working your books. So here you can see a little bit of the shine and beauty that the resin adds to the albums. What I also love it is it sort of like you looking through glass, so it gives a lot more dimension to your books than you otherwise would have had. And here's the finished albums. I added a little bit of hardware there. You can see those beautiful binder clips, and they are just beautiful. And you can see how 3D it looks right through the glass. Well, that's it for video 1, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.